Welcome, viewers, listeners. Off to a bad start.
Very bad. Welcome one and all.
Welcome to episode 3, Attack of the Killer Bees. A little bit of a Wu-Tang joke for you there. An incredibly niche reference to the 5 of you who listen to this show. That said, I have a bone to pick with you. It wouldn't be the Bee episode without a bone. I have a bone to pick with you.
It's a pretty confrontational start to the show, Neil.
I hope it doesn't set the tone. I say I've got a bone to pick. Not so much me, so much as the peeps. Since the recording of the last show.
What do the 4 of them want now?
I've been approached by several people. Some I didn't even know listened to this show. Some I've never met before.
Okay.
So that's pretty weird.
That's weird.
That's weird to think that people beyond you and me listen to this back.
That's odd.
Several people are very disgruntled that you did not let Arnold Schwarzenegger into the Almanac of Awesome.
Well, I think I made my point quite clearly, and if they still don't agree with my point, fuck them, start your own podcast.
Well,
it's called Neil and Sam's Almanac of Awesome, not every fucker with an opinion's Almanac of Awesome.
Well, we're back with B. I've had a few suggestions actually from.
I do jest about the Arnold thing. I have felt kind of bad about it.
Right.
About the big guy.
Yeah.
He's been on the phone. He wrote a letter. When was the last time you wrote someone a letter?
It's got to be very hard for the man with such big hands.
It was crayon.
Dear
Sam. It was like 3 words to a page. It was kind of embarrassing.
Enclosed are my tears.
And just a small vial of his tears mixed with the blood of a cobra.
Which I assume is his version of Red Bull.
Don't know why he did that. Send a message, I think.
A warning.
But yeah, I'm kind of tempted to amend it.
Ooh, interesting.
Not buckling to the feedback of people blindly saying, "Oh, Arnie should be in there," but thinking on it as a total. When I get to 60, I won't get to 60.
Not at this rate.
Yeah. When I get as close as I'm going to get to 60,
yeah.
I wouldn't want people to look back on my life's work and judge me for the 10% of it that wasn't very good.
2 dicks making a podcast deemed your entire career null and void.
So yeah, I'd tentatively, I'd say, let him in.
Well, I have cooked up. Sorry.
No, I tell you what, middle ground. The Almanac of Awesome is going to have a final page titled Honourable Mentions.
So Arnie gets an honourable mention.
Arnie gets an honourable mention. I think that's a fair medium.
Well, rocked by your combative stance, this episode of the Almanac of Awesome, I have concocted a list of 3 ingredients starting with B. 3 ingredients with
3 Bs. How many members of the Bee Gees were there?
3.
Perfect.
They're not even on the list.
They will be.
They will be. Maybe we need to expand this into a bumper B episode.
Right.
Betwixt the thrice of them, they have over 200 years of pop culture relevance to them. So I'm feeling pretty confident I can get all 3 in.
That's, wow, okay.
If for some reason you're a first-time listener to the show, and God help you, this is the Almanac of Awesome, by the way, where I drop a list of pop culture references, and Sam gets to hold court over to whether they get omitted into the Almanac of Awesome. This week is episode B, for things that start with B. There, we're all caught
Last
now.
week we did a why we were talking about Arnold Schwarzenegger a couple of minutes ago. Just they're all there. Wherever you found this, the other episodes will be just
they're not far away.
Listen to them.
Yeah. So I had a couple of honourable mentions from members of the public. Johnny Q Public. You mentioned the Bee Gees there. Have you got a straight answer for whether the Bee Gees would get in? They certainly never had a dull moment.
I was about to ask a question then, which would probably count as slander, but then I remembered it wasn't what I thought it was. He just died.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. You know what? I would let the Bee Gees in.
Instant pass. Well, that's good. Let's keep this quick fire momentum up. Bee Gees, right. Instant pass into the Almanac of Awesome.
Yeah. They don't get their own page.
No.
But,
a footnote.
They'll be mentioned.
How's that, Barry Gibb? You've ended up on the footnote of someone's podcast.
Footnote of two random blokes podcast. Done.
Yeah. Good. Okay. The other suggestion that we had was beer.
Beer? Well...
Would you give an instant pass to beer?
Well, yeah. Who wouldn't?
There you go.
Who wouldn't give an instant...
I thought you might...
What's the argument against beer?
Well, no, you were very combative last week, so I wondered whether you'd kick up any fuss. This is boding well for me so far.
Yeah. I was having a bad week last week, so it's...
To beer? Beer is in.
Beer's in. Beer's straight in.
The other one I got, the third and final, is Bill Murray.
Bill Murray... Who are these? Do they not grasp the concept that the Almanac of Awesome, from in my head, is called the Book of Bill Murray? Because Bill Murray is the greatest human being alive or who has ever lived. No one's better than Bill Murray. Name me someone better than Bill Murray.
Well, I can.
Exactly.
It's not my place to.
Exactly. Bill Murray, who has popped up again in the news. Not the news. It should be the news. It should be
social
the top
buzz.
item. The social networks.
Right.
He's popped up again, another one of his random appearances at a party where he's shown up at someone's, I believe it was someone's stag do. Where he sat the groom-to-be down and said to him, what you should do is you should take a year out, go travelling together, go to some of the most obscure, hard to get into, hard to get out of places there are, and if you get back to the airport after a year of travelling like that and you still love her, marry her there and then.
Sage counsel from
There
Bill
he is,
Murray.
and then he disappears into the night.
Interesting. Well, fair play to him. That was 3 quick fire suggestions from our listening audience.
So yeah, so the Bee Gees, beer, and Bill Murray, which, let's be honest, is a night that any of us would want to be a part of.
We're done. 7 minutes into the show, we're done. That's it.
See you later.
That's it. Right.
I told you the lengths would vary.
Let us begin the Killer Bees. Let's go back. I was going to say let's go back to 1953, but I'm going to skip forward to 1962 a little bit. If I was to sing to you Three Blind Mice, I think you know where I'm going.
Carry on.
Nothing on that?
Carry on.
You've not twigged yet? Okay, if I was to... Slight apologies for the sound issues here. You may hear the emergency sirens of Londinium in the background. We're filming on location this week. Okay, so Three Blind Mice. What about if I was to sing to you Underneath the Mango Tree? Still no?
Nothing.
What if I was to rise from the surf clasped in only a white bikini, clutching a shell?
Right.
You with me now?
I think I'm with you now.
Alright, so 1962 saw the first picture of James Bond in Dr. No.
James Bond.
The first B of this week.
The first B is Bond.
Is Bond. Not his first iteration. He was cooked up in 1953 by Ian Fleming.
Indeed.
Who had a bit of a spy taskmaster past.
Mm-hmm.
So he's drawn from experience here. He's also appeared in radio plays and novels beforehand. In America, he was known as Jimmy Bond.
Jimmy Bond.
Jimmy Bond.
B.
Big Jimmy B.
Big Jim B.
Yeah. So Doctor No was the first James Bond film. Some would say the best. Where do you stand? He's obviously James Bond films are still being made to this very day.
Yeah. Now, my question with James Bond is how quickly did James Bond pass from a British cultural thing into a global cultural thing? It's not something that I really paid attention to, but was it from, well, not being alive didn't help. But 1962,
I know the answer
Doctor
to
No
this.
comes out. Was it as big everywhere else as it was here, or?
It was. One of the things that we'll come back to in James Bond is the rise and fall of Britpop. So in the 60s, especially in 1962, the Beatles were just about to release their first LP. Everyone wanted something to do with Britpop. So British things were very popular. By the time they hit Goldfinger, James Bond was an established phenomenon. So things moved very swiftly for Jimmy B.
I was thinking of, what film was it?
Are we thinking of a Bond film here?
No, thinking of Leonardo DiCaprio, Tom Hanks, Catch Me If You Can.
Right.
That film. There's a bit in that where Leonardo DiCaprio goes to the cinema and sees, I believe it was Goldfinger, and then goes out and gets the same suit and the Aston Martin. So I figured, that was my only link point.
Not being a time traveller yourself, that's your only point of reference.
Yeah.
It's very big. I mean, one of the interesting things about James Bond is he has, or the phenomenon has, survived the rise and fall of falling in and out of fashion.
It came close though, didn't it?
It came very close.
It came very, very close.
When you consider, like, the film Casino Royale, the first Casino Royale film was a James Bond parody starring Woody Allen. Like, it survived that, and then come the 90s, as Britpop is on the rise again, you've got the assault from Austin Powers just twisting the knife into James Bond, saying this is not really cool anymore.
Yeah.
And yet still, they're still being made.
But then that's as the Roger Moore.
Was the 70s through 80s, yeah.
That was the point where it really became, I mean, I suppose it fits in with the 70s sort of kitsch.
Things were pretty wonky. It was a wonky wagon back then.
Yeah.
I'd challenge you to give me the plot of many of the Roger Moore films. Do you remember?
Test me.
Right, Live and Let Die.
Live and Let Die. That would be the James Bond film.
Yeah.
Where... Live and Let Die. Shit, now I was thinking of A View to a Kill.
All right,
the best of the Bond films.
Tell me A View to a Kill. Who was the baddie?
View to a Kill, the bad guy is, of course, Christopher Walken. Doing the most marvellous Christopher Walken impression.
Essentially just playing Christopher Walken.
Yeah. And Grace Jones as his crazed...
I guess you would say bodyguard, but they were fairly amorous. Christopher Walken in that film is a genetically engineered human. I swear to you, I remember this. I looked this up. He was genetically engineered from the best bits of Nazis, as all the Nazi generals of high rank.
That makes sense.
Put all the stuff in a jar, and that was used to create Max Zorin.
When they put it in the jar before they took the sample out, do you reckon they shook it rather than stirred it?
Oh, that's very good. Very, very good. The plot...
I shouldn't be nearly as proud of that as I am.
Very good.
Can you just imagine in the lab, just when they hand a beaker over, the doctor's...
Oh, lumpy.
Shaken, not stirred.
The plot of that one was Max Zorin intended to stimulate the San Andreas Fault.
Yeah, he wanted to flood it, didn't he?
Silicon Valley, so that it would be hard to make microchips.
Yeah, I think what they've done there is they haven't quite grasped the concept that was just a place where those people set up.
True.
But
I think the fallacy of most James Bond films, especially through the 70s, 80s, and even nowadays, is there's nothing that James Bond does that any teenager with an iPhone couldn't do anyway.
That's a fair point. Except Moonraker.
Can you remember the plot to Moonraker? Other
The
than
plot to Moonraker...
they end up in a space station at some point?
The plot to Moonraker was...
Yeah.
The bad guy, who I can't remember.
Also had a bit of a Nazi past.
Most of them do, don't
Most
they?
of them do.
It's just easy.
Yeah.
The bad guy wanted to take he picked out the best and brightest, and he wanted to take them up to space station, which would then send out probes and destroy all life on Earth, so they could go back and reclaim it.
And Roger Moore had to go
and then Roger Moore has sex in a spaceship.
He was pretty amorous.
Yeah.
Even for Bond, Roger Moore got laid a lot.
Can you imagine the decision the actresses of the 70s would have to make when they got the phone call saying,
you're going to play an implausibly named...
You're going to play essentially a walking innuendo in the latest James Bond film.
You have to pretend to love Roger Moore.
The only problem is you are going to have to do a sex scene with Roger Moore.
Jesus. Poor lasses.
The phrase Sophie's Choice gets bandied about quite a lot, but it's up there, isn't it?
For its initial run...
I just want to check that I've given everyone listening a mental image of having sex with Roger Moore.
Don't worry, I'll find an appropriate picture for the... So I reckon the original run, Dr. No, so from 1962 to Diamonds Are Forever.
Right.
1971. Okay. I think they were of their time.
Yeah.
I think the Sean Connery ones were probably the best ones.
They were. I think it was before they got too carried away, and it's why the Daniel Craig films, I think, have done so well and struck such a chord, is because they've gone back to James Bond was about the man being the tool or the weapon.
James Bond is a tool.
James Bond is a tool. Rather than he's just someone who's essentially a walking bag for gadgets.
That's fair. That kind of sums up more as...
It's also why the Timothy Dalton Bond films are so good.
He's a double hard bastard.
Because it's just, it's Bond. He's gone off. He's gone renegade. He's gone rogue.
Do you recall The Living Daylights, where not only does he get the catchphrase out, must have scared the living daylights out of her, but the plot of that film essentially involved him teaming up with the Taliban.
Yeah.
Yeah. Doesn't get shown on TV a lot anymore.
Doesn't give a shit. That's James Bond with a score to settle.
They're like, he's going to end up in Afghanistan to fight the Russians.
I'm surprised he didn't end up teaming up with a Nazi in that film.
It was pretty much them just like lifting off a Rambo, which is fine. It's not the way I wanted to see James Bond doing. The next one, View to a Kill, was billed... License to Kill was billed as James Bond versus Scarface.
Yes.
Yeah, where it essentially was James Bond.
It wasn't really a Bond film.
No.
As I remember it.
No.
It was sort of like an 80s drug thriller. It was more a Serpico.
I remember young Benicio del Toro does get ground up in a big crusher.
Yeah.
Tough break, Benicio. So going back to before Diamonds Are Forever, which was the last Sean Connery Bond, if you don't count Never Say Never Again, which we're not allowed to do because it's not part of the canon.
It's not canon.
It's not canon, and it was just a retread of Thunderball.
Mm-hmm.
There was On Her Majesty's Secret Service, which I think gets a bit of a bad rep. You're cringing.
Old Lazenby.
Is it the bad? I think it's a...
I don't think it's the worst Bond film.
It's pretty brutal, given this is the one James Bond film where he falls in love.
I think that was the problem with it. Was it's Bond falling in love, it's Bond getting married, and then they go savage with it. And
do you remember?
I don't think the reason that it was so poorly received is because people weren't going into it expecting that from a James Bond film at that point. It was them sort of pushing the envelope.
That, and you had Terry Savalas playing Ernst Stavro Blofeld.
We're just going to change him. We're just going to change him.
To be
It's
fair,
fine.
James Bond macking Blofeld's his arch nemesis' daughter,
Getting on
marrying her,
That's what he does. That's why he's James Bond.
and then shot. That's why he shot. The start of Diamonds Are Forever is essentially James Bond tracking down Ernst Stavro Blofeld, including a scene where he strangles a woman with her own bikini because he's pissed.
He is pissed off. Don't piss off James Bond, because
Sage counsel.
he'll love you, but you annoy him. He'll kill you the next instant.
He was definitely a bit of a colder bastard in the 60s.
Yeah.
All going on.
Although he's sort of, again though, they've gone back to that now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not bad. Do you remember what are your most memorable James Bond themes?
Songs?
Yeah. Shirley had the hat trick.
Yeah, well the Shirleys are clearly,
It's back when it was good.
yeah, they're the ones you mostly think of. But again, A View to a Kill, great song.
Great song.
Live and Let Die,
Yeah.
come on.
Yeah. Living Daylights was a personal favourite of mine.
Living Daylights.
What have been the worst ones? For me, Bassie's Moonraker was an awful song.
God, that was awful. Madonna, the one that Madonna did was
absolute
terrible.
worst. That was the. Oh, I remember taking a girl there on a date to watch this. And that is the first time we've ever been like, we can't stay for the rest of this film. It's just ridiculous.
Do you know the reason that was? I mean, it was, for starters, you picked Madonna, you idiots. What were you expecting to happen? But you notice that like Adele, even for Skyfall,
Yeah.
and the Shirley Bassey songs were, and the other Pierce Brosnan films, like was it Garbage did one of the songs.
Yep. World is not
They
enough.
were those bands or those singers doing a Bond song,
Yeah.
whereas Die Another Day, it was Madonna going, right, well that's the number one single in the bag, I'll just make whatever the fuck I want.
Harsh, but
I hate
probably
her.
fair.
I hate her.
It's alright, she's definitely...
I really hope when we get to M, Madonna comes up, because I will...
critique her.
I'll be ready for that one. I'll be waiting.
Do you remember the plots of Bond films or just bits of them?
I think I remember them pretty well, most of them. Again, the bare bones. I mean,
Yeah.
I couldn't give you a full rundown of all the twists and turns. But
Roger Moore Bond films, we tend to be pretty hazy.
yeah, that's because they just made the same film 6 times, though, isn't it?
Probably true. Why is it that all James Bond bad guys have to be either somehow disabled or a little bit gay?
Everyone loves a flamboyant bad guy,
True.
don't they? And Hollywood
They're all
go a little bit camp. That's the easiest way of doing it.
they all have their disabilities. Dr. No had metal hands.
Is that a disability?
Well, had he not had metal hands, he could have gripped onto the cooling tank side a bit better and not boiled alive.
Well,
I can see your point.
that's quite a specific situation to be in, though. Of all the situations that you could find yourself in where metal hands would help, just avoid boiling tanks of water.
Sound. Blofeld ended up in a wheelchair by the end of it.
Yeah.
Remember how Blofeld was eventually killed off? He took control of James Bond's helicopter by remote control, but Bond hot-wired it back, picked him up, and then dropped him into a smoking tower stack.
What film was that?
Oh, that was one of the more ones. I want to say it might have actually been View to a Kill. If not, it was the one before that.
Wasn't View to a Kill.
But that's how Blofeld was eventually killed off.
That's how we all hope to go.
Yeah, because you've got Scaramanga from Man with the Golden Gun. His disability, of course, was he had a third nipple.
Scaramanga.
Christopher Lee.
And he had...
But little Knick-Knack.
Knick-Knack.
Yeah.
That's it.
Hello, Mr. Bond.
We are trying to read
They must. I wonder if. Yeah, I wonder if.
It has not worked at all.
I wonder if they thought, oh, third nipple isn't freaky enough. Let's give him a dwarven assistant.
Let's give him a weirder odd job.
Yeah. Mr. Bond. Who outlives him, to be fair. Christopher Lee, good choice of a villain.
Great choice for villain.
I remember he was assassinating people. That was the whole gist. The song by Lulu, you might remember. He has a powerful weapon. He charges 1 million a shot.
Good lord.
An assassin that's second to none.
Funnily enough.
Yeah, not one of your stronger.
Funnily enough, that's I believe that's the byline on my entry at certain medical clinics.
The man with the golden gun.
Man with the golden gun charges
Charges 1 million a shot.
Charges 1 million a shot.
Which in today's prices, for an assassination...
That's not the kind of gun I was referring to, Neil.
I see. You're pretty sharp today.
Thank you. It's 'cause I had to wait, so I went and had a coffee.
Let's cut down to the brass tacks of it then. James Bond.
James Bond's going in. James Bond can't not go in because it's been 50 years.
More, probably.
It's been more, yeah, for what, 52 years of... When a James Bond film comes out, it's a moment, it's an occasion.
Right.
It's not just another film coming out. It's up there with, you know, there's a new... It's not even like just there's a Marvel film. It's like the Avengers. It's like when the Avengers 2 comes out, that's going to be a moment. That's going to be a big thing that everyone's like, oh... And it's like that every single time a Bond film comes out, except for Die Another Day, because that was just... That Die Another Day is the argument for exclusion that Arnie's post-political film career was for his. It's that bad.
It was a pretty bad one.
He's got an invisible car. He surfs. What? James Bond surfing? No, he'd find another way.
The invisible boat, so the invisible car was pretty much, that was pretty bad.
And Halle Berry just phoning it in
as Jinx
horrifically. There's
not much to recommend.
Madonna shows up in it as well, doesn't she? So I've done the song, so I want to be in the film now because I'm an actress.
I'm a fencing coach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I can overlook one bad film. Even like Tomorrow Never Dies.
I had a cool bad guy though who had those diamonds in his face from that explosion.
Yep.
That's pretty cool.
It was pretty cool.
But not cool enough.
No.
Come on. And yet you...
Oh, we've got an ice palace. Oh, and it's going to melt.
Oh, that was shite as well.
Shut up.
Yeah.
It's not how it works.
I think that was definitely James Bond franchise and you really needed a bit of a sit down and a think.
Yeah, and that's what they did.
Who was your favourite Bond?
Seriously?
Yeah.
Sean Connery.
Right.
But for Sunday afternoon goodness, it's got to be Roger Moore. It's got to be Roger Moore.
Giving hope to ginger people everywhere.
He was so wrong as James Bond. He was nothing. He didn't have any of the characteristics of James Bond.
But I'm suave.
Yet,
look how I wear this safari suit.
Throw a neckerchief on him.
I'm ready to save the world.
My dear.
Well, fair play to him. Fair play. Long may James Bond reign.
Yeah, James Bond's in.
James Bond is in the bag.
Yeah.
James Bond's in the bag. Right, moving on to the next one. We should probably add a little sting there.
There you go, save a bit of time in the edit. What's next?
I'll probably have to edit.
B2.
I'll just drop an edit here, right here.
There? Done?
Done.
Have you done the edit?
Done.
Right, that's that done.
It's good. I'm working across the times. Tell me, what do you know of the Quarrymen? 1957 skiffle band, the Quarrymen. Several members.
Were there 4 members, Neil?
No, there were 5.
There were 5 members.
Yeah, I see what you're trying to do, but one dropped out, wasn't
One
room.
dropped out. All right. Did they perhaps, perchance, play a gig at a certain venue in Liverpool?
Getting ahead of yourself there. I think you'll find the Silver Beatles, later known as the Beatles, went and played Germany for a little while because Britain was fucking full of skiffle bands.
Okay.
Then got more into the rock sound, and came back as the Beatles. 1960 they officially formed as the Beatles. The first EP, Please Please Me, was in 1963, and by 1970 their last one was out, Let It Be, and it was all over.
That was it.
Whirlwind decade that set the bar.
Who was the fifth?
Some guy. He's an honourable mention.
Some dick.
Yeah. He's still alive.
Are you telling me that in 1950...
No, he's dead now.
1950 what?
1957.
In 1957, you're telling me that the Beatles had a Bez?
Yeah. But he dropped out. It wasn't for him. He did die recently. Victor Lewis is famous for his quote of saying the Beatles are dying in the wrong order. Where do you stand on that?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Not a Paul McCartney fan then.
Who is? Imagine he's listening to this. These two lads sound really funny. Let's give them a listen. No.
I've heard great things.
Almanac of Awesome is fun to say. I think I'll give it a listen.
Sorry, Paul.
Sorry, Sir Paul.
You floppy head cunt.
Jesus! That man's a national treasure. He's a sir, for heaven's sakes. He calls it as you see it.
Don't mince my words, Neil.
Why are the Beatles... Well, are the Beatles still relevant today, in your opinion?
Yes. They are.
Right.
Because they did a lot of the groundwork.
Strong foundations.
Did a lot of the groundwork
Yeah.
for rock and roll.
Uh-huh.
But, and we're about to step into controversial waters again.
Aside from calling Paul McCartney a cunt. Right.
Yep.
Right, okay.
He is a cunt.
What's he ever done to you?
Oh, you know what happened.
Is it the frog
You know
chorus?
what happened in 99. There
Again?
I was, a young boy of 12.
Don't take us down this dark path. Don't. Not with the Beatles. Not with the Beatles.
No, the controversy. Well, not really controversy, but I've always been more of a Stones man than the Beatles. That's the side of the line that I fall on.
That is totally fair. To me, the Rolling Stones have always made better music. If it came down to the choice, I would list myself as a Stones man. Yet, I am au fait with the Beatles' work. Mainly because they knocked it on the head after 10 years and the Rolling Stones are still pumping them out.
Yeah, exactly. Stones are still touring. Beatles are dying. So,
Survival of the fittest.
who do you think did more heroin? Can you imagine Keith Richards and Ringo Starr on a night out together? Picture that.
Pay to see
You want
that.
to be there, don't you?
Pay to see that. So obviously, Keith Richards still going, still cropping up in Pirates of the Caribbean movies. Ringo Starr, Thomas the Tank Engine. Why is that?
Because I've answered that text message.
It's very... Would you want to apologise to the listeners?
No,
It's very
fuck
rude.
them. They can wait.
It's very rude of you.
What? I'm a busy man, Neil. Can't just give you all
Paul
of it for an
McCartney's
hour.
Paul McCartney's never stopped.
Paul McCartney's a cunt.
He's never stopped a podcast to answer a text.
Right. Ringo Starr in Thomas the Tank Engine is probably the greatest thing that he's ever done in his career. Calling it
Over the Beatles.
over the Beatles. That's how much I like Thomas the Tank Engine. That was my jam when I was a kid.
I'm learning all the new things.
Tommy T came on. Boom.
You were in the zone.
I was there. Screaming fits when it finished. Till someone put the video in.
How did you feel? How did you feel when Ringo Starr politely asked, "No more autographs"?
I thought the same as I'd think of any celebrity who said something like that.
Right.
Climb down off your high horse.
Ringo Starr.
Ringo Starr.
If that is your real name.
That's probably not his real name, is it?
I should probably researched it.
That can't be his real name. Imagine that. Mr. and Mrs. Starr. To whom a son is born, Ringo.
Was the well? I was going to say it was the 60s. It wasn't.
Yeah.
You're lost in thought. This has perplexed you. I'm glad I've thrown you a little landmine here.
Yeah. How do you think things would have gone if Lennon hadn't died?
Oh, I think he'd have become a right arsehole.
Yeah. Exactly.
Are you advocating?
He'd have gone the way of Paul McCartney.
Are you advocating the assassination of John Lennon?
I've never met Mark Chapman, but there was one character from history whose hand I want to shake.
Fuck's sake! Is this your heel turn? Is this it? Is this when you go full villain?
This is it. This is it. This is where it happens.
Jesus Christ.
Just wait until we get to the Madonna episode. You're going to hear some dark shit then.
So, talking about the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, the Beatles are often portrayed as more nicey-nicey.
Yeah.
Whereas the Stones were a little more lurid. However, Please Please Me is a dirty fucking song.
Yeah, no, they had their moments, the Beatles. They had,
The I Want to Hold Your Hand. You want to do more than hold her hand,
Yeah.
Sonny Jim.
Yep. I imagine he wants to, well, let's keep it family friendly.
Keep it... Yeah, that's your motto, right enough. Let's keep it family friendly.
I mean, as far as you can't not... There's not enough of an argument to not put the Beatles in.
Right.
I mean, we sit here as Stones men, as if you could see where we are now would be fairly evident from the pile of cocaine, hypodermic needles,
Mars bars.
and screaming
Sirens. Yeah.
But no, I think they're too big to not go in. The Beatles,
Oh.
I think. Don't get me wrong, not a single piece of their solo work of any of them would go in.
Not even Frog Chorus.
No, not even Frog Chorus.
Not even Imagine.
No, that's not going in because that's a whiny load of shit.
What about Merry Christmas, War is Over?
No.
For the same reason.
Yep.
Do you think Yoko Ono takes a disproportionate amount of blame for the
Yes.
breaking up?
I do. I don't think Yoko Ono changed anything in John Lennon. I think she just drew out the poisonous, self-centered dick that he actually was.
You've been besmirched 2 national institutions in one podcast.
Yeah, fuck him. That's why you invited me to do this with you.
Jesus. Sorry, Ghost of John Lennon, if you're listening.
Fuck you, Ghost of John Lennon. I'll take you on.
You are headed to the naughty step today. You're letting the Beatles in, but
I'm letting the Beatles in.
I sense that the Beatles are just a thing to you.
Yeah.
You have no personal
That's
connection
it.
with them.
It's a pop culture thing. It's not. Yeah.
Do you have a favourite Beatles song?
I like Let It Be.
Right.
Sometimes.
Sick.
I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I like Come Together.
Yeah.
Tune.
That's it.
I struggle past there, really.
Yeah.
I find a lot of their songs... Do you know what I mean by the Stones? You can listen to songs that the Stones did in the 60s and 70s and they still sound sort of fresh and
They have a life
relevant
to them.
now. They've got a life to them. Whereas a vast majority of the Beatles stuff, I find, you put it in, you're like, that's music from the 60s.
Ah, I see.
Do you see what I mean?
Well, for a
Like,
band
you put
that-
on, like, Gimme Shelter, even, like, Wild Horses, something like that. You put that on now,
Yeah.
and they don't feel like old songs. Miss You by the Rolling Stones. This is the greatest song ever. I can't listen to it without doing the mick.
The Jagger Strutter.
The Jagger strut. It's impossible. It's just little...
So Beatles get a pass.
Yeah, Beatles are in. Not
They're just too big.
They're not aggrieved to go in. It's not a forced thing. It's just...
It is interesting what you say. You know, they were famed for like reinventing their sound. I mean, they did a lot of work in 7 short years. They took it all Eastern. They had their sitar on the go.
How much do you think I'd piss people off if I said I thought Wings was a better band?
Jet is a tune. Jet is a tune. Band on the Run.
Band on the Run?
It was
better than anything the Beatles made.
It was put to me that Wings was merely the ego of Paul McCartney sticking it to Lennon to see this is what we could have done if you'd let me be in charge.
Yeah, and then Lennon was so taken aback by that he found some weird bloke who was a massive fan of him and paid him to shoot him outside his apartment building.
God, it's getting dark. I don't know if we'll make it to a 4th episode.
Can iTunes reject podcasts based on just random slanderous statements?
No.
Brilliant.
No.
That's the shackles off then.
They previewed the first one, so that was the barometer. They knew how bad it was going to get. I don't think they expected your fall from grace to be this bad. But
well, here we are.
Here we are.
If you love me, you can fuck off.
Hate it or love it. All right, so a quick recap for you. James Bond's in.
Right.
The Beatles are in.
Yep.
All right.
The Beatles are in with an asterisk.
What was the asterisk?
The asterisk says, but the Stones are better.
So when
we get to R,
right,
we might have to take the Beatles out.
Wow. You're living on borrowed time, Beatles.
Yeah, that's what I've done there, Neil.
Yeah.
It's a subtle little pre-nod to what will become our 18th episode. Is that R?
You can
figure it out. Whatever number R is of the alphabet.
Nerve to dismantle the Beatles and then don't know your chronological.
I don't know.
Doesn't matter. What does matter is our 3rd and final B for today.
18th. Did I say 18th?
You did.
Bam! Look at that. Let's turn it off. Stop recording. That's my victory for the day.
Pretty sure people have stopped listening anyway. It's a mute point.
Do you reckon it was calling McCartney a cunt that did it?
They tipped him off the edge. He probably caused people in cars to swerve off the road. People in kitchens to have accidents. Jesus.
Right.
Bond
and the Beatles.
Right.
In.
The next one.
Oh Christ.
I fear it's open and shut. More so than any of our other Bs. 1939. Comic book artist Bob Kane.
Oh, he's gone there.
Takes credit, perhaps unfairly takes all the credit from his co-writer Bill. Creates the character Batman. And Batman is our 3rd and final.
Batman.
Coming for me.
You say you're worried that this one's going to be open and shut, but I'm not going to not put myself in the Almanac of Awesome.
Do you consider yourself to be Batman?
I'm Batman.
How do you identify with Batman? Do you like... Batman is a franchise in itself, so it has games, it has comics, it has books.
Yep.
Movies, rather. Books. What are books?
It's probably got some books.
When you think of Batman, what Batman do you think of?
I think of my first ever introduction to Batman, which was not through the campy 60s TV show. It wasn't through the Christopher Nolan Batman films. It wasn't through the Tim Burton Batman films. My first experience was through the graphic novel Nightfall.
That was your first experience
That was
with
my
Batman?
first experience with the Batman, was Nightfall, which is to date still my probably my favourite comic book story.
See?
And it introduces, well, not introduces, but he makes great use of a certain villain that we are both particularly fond of.
I don't know who you're talking about.
Oh, don't you, Mr. Gorton? You don't know who I'm talking about.
I was going to go on this whole tangent of listing the Batman films for you and just go on this...
I've just jumped straight in.
Yeah, I was going to go... I had this whole deception set up of like, oh, the Batman films are great. I mean, obviously in the first one he fights the Joker. The second one, Catwoman and Penguin. To which you'd butt in with the Christopher Nolan and be like, what? There's been new Batman films made.
What?
So, 75 years...
It's amazing, isn't it? Because Batman is
ridiculous. A ridiculous
idea. I was going to say Batman is... No, I don't. I think he is. Batman's America's Bond.
That's an interesting statement.
More so than Superman, I'd say.
Well, there's a lot of gadgets going on.
He's got the gadgets. He's an ordinary bloke who's just trained himself up.
Really rich.
And is really rich. Yeah, they. I think Batman he's America's Bond. It's 75 years. That's longer than James Bond. So if anything, James Bond is the UK's
Britain's
Batman. Britain's Batman.
I throw a spanner or a bat spanner in your works. I struggle to root for James Bond. I struggle to root for Batman, for I am a bit of a class warrior, and it annoys me that Bruce Wayne is so rich. Even though he never does anything malicious with his money, it just irks me that he has money and I don't. I could be Batman.
I've always found, though, that the money aspect of the character, Bruce Wayne, never comes into it with Batman. I mean, he's got the tools and the stuff, but I never find myself thinking like, oh, you only beat him because you're a rich bastard. It's kind of like Tony Stark in that sense. That he is crazy rich, and that's the reason that he can afford to have these things made, but he's still thinking them up.
He's clever, that Bruce Wayne. Are you gonna interrupt Batman to answer another text message? What could be more important than Batman?
No. Batman himself texted me. Stop talking about me.
Don't call me a cunt like McCartney.
I fucking hate that guy too.
So talk to me. Well, let's...
Shut up, Batman. I'll swear at McCartney as much as I want to. Swear at me!
It's the second good one you've got off today.
Third.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
All right. Talk to me about the Nolan films then, because I sense you get a lot of pleasure from them.
Yeah. Batman Begins is, I think, the archetype. I think that the sole reason that we have all the superhero films that we have now.
Right.
I think Iron Man solidified it, the first one, but without Batman Begins, I don't think we'd have any of them, because Nolan took a character which at the time was as ridiculous as Batman was, with the sort of the very gothic but still campy Burton films, the ingrained spandex and
bat nipples of. You can't even say Batman and Robin, can you?
I wish that there was someone would take Batman and Robin and cut out every aspect of that film except Mr. Freeze.
It's pretty amazing.
Who is incredible in that. Again, Arnie, boom, pre-politics. His finest role. Tonight. It's got to be a freeze in Gotham. No, he managed to take that character and in one film make him feel completely legitimate and real within the world that he was in.
Without being overly lecherous, let's return to Batman and Robin briefly.
Right.
You fully dismiss it? Wasn't all bad? Alicia Silverstone?
No.
No?
I hated her in that film. Really hate. She just... With Alicia Silverstone, I don't know whether it was her, the script, the director, whatever, but they managed to make Batgirl, as they called her. It's Batwoman, for fuck's sake. But their Batgirl was just a massive step backwards for the entire equality movement, I felt.
More so than Uma Thurman's Poison Ivy.
More so than Uma Thurman's Poison Ivy, because she had her own agenda. She was a bit shit, and typical Hollywood, they had to have her going around with a big strong man to let her do stuff. But yeah, dude, Batgirl was just she was nothing. She was there so that they could show a girl in leather in a trailer. There was no other point to her being there.
But then, of course, you got Mr. Freeze, who makes it all worthwhile.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. Cut the whole film down so it's just a 10-minute little montage of Barney throwing out some of his career's best one-liners.
But take a step back.
Chill out.
Take a step back, and before that, you got Batman Forever.
Batman Forever, I thought, was all right. It was the first of the Joel Schumacher. Was it Joel Schumacher who did that one? Where it was like the neon and the Technicolor. But I felt at that point it was quite a good comic book film. In that I've seen interviews with him since where he doesn't make any apologies for Batman and Robin. But with Batman Forever, he makes a very good point of he was tasked with taking a comic book and putting it on a cinema screen, which visually he did, I thought, pretty well. Jim Carrey, I thought, was brilliant as the Riddler. Yeah. I thought.
Tommy Lee Jones as burned Tommy Lee Jones.
Tommy Lee Jones was, he wasn't a great Two-Face, but...
So I think, he took the role on his son's advisement, who was a big Batman fan.
Yeah, it's the same with a lot of them, though, isn't it? I think Gary Oldman said the same thing about being Commissioner Gordon. He did it because he wanted to be in a Bat film for his sons or grandsons, or he's eternal, so it doesn't really matter.
Val Kilmer as Batman?
Didn't like that.
No,
I thought he was a terrible choice.
To
be honest, I didn't really like Michael Keaton.
Really?
No, didn't like him as Batman. I thought Burton's films were great.
Yeah.
But
Batman was
solely because of the villains. I thought they weren't really Batman films. They were Rogues Gallery films, I thought.
So, $1 million question then is Jack Nicholson versus Heath Ledger. Oh, this is deep.
That might be one of the hardest questions you've yet asked me. Because they're both so perfect for their time.
Yeah.
Aren't they? I mean, the reason that Heath Ledger's Joker was so brilliant and worked so well in that film was he embodied chaos in that world. In where up until like the whole of Batman Begins and everything, it was all about order and structure and control and everything. Before all of a sudden the Dark Knight, he gets this quite literally a wild card gets thrown to him, and there's no way of controlling him or reading him. And within the world, with the parallels with terrorism and etc., and it being about Batman again, sort of becoming Batman, because he hadn't become Batman by the end of Batman Begins. He was most of the way there, but but then you've got Jack Nicholson's Joker, who's just is the zany clown prince of crime side of the Joker. I'd like to see a film where the two are blended, which personally I think is what they've done. They did a lot of in the Arkham games with their sort of version of the Joker. Was they took the voice from the animated series, but then they sort of, to me, it felt like there was a big intersect between those two with that.
Crumbs. Are you happy that the Adam West Batman still gets a loving?
Kind of.
Can you sit through one now?
Kind of. I sat through the movie recently.
Right.
bat shark repellent, I think, is my favourite gadget that there's ever been because it's just so specific. It's not something that you'd ever pack in the utility belt, unless the idea, their concept of utility belt is infinite. It's not something where you'd ever be going through the gadgets and be like, right, I'm
Definitely gonna need
facing the Penguin and the Joker, so I'm probably going to need something so they don't get me with gas and something so I don't get hypnotised by his umbrellas, etc. I'll just take the shark repellent,
just in case.
just because up until this point, you know, I've keep coming up against sharks and think, I wish I had some repellent on me. So not this time. But yeah, I think it's done now, isn't it? I think.
What, Batman?
No, the campy.
Oh, the campy size.
Campy 60s Batman is done. I don't think there's a place for it now. But then, no, I don't know.
What do you think Ben Affleck's Batman's going to be like?
I'm really, really looking forward to Ben Affleck's Batman.
Yeah.
Have you read did you see Patton Oswalt put up a response to all the feedback, all the instant backlash at Ben Affleck being announced as it, where he made a very good point that basically at the end of this long thing that he posted, and I'd suggest any fans look it up and read it, is he makes the argument that there actually isn't a better choice for that version of Batman than Ben Affleck. The idea being that they've already said, you know, there's massive links to The Dark Knight Returns and that whole thing with Batman versus Superman and etc., that this is an older, world-weary Batman. He's been there and done that. He's presumably trying to sort of move out of the being the Batman thing and working on the Bruce Wayne role. And then you've got Ben Affleck, who's this actor who started out at the top, massive, shot to fame, and then just nosedived horrifically. You think Ben Affleck, right? If someone said to you after, what was it, Jiggly?
Oh, I didn't even sit
or
through
Jersey Girl.
I kind of like Jersey Girl, to be honest.
I kind of like Jersey Girl. I think that's more because I've got a soft spot for Liv Tyler than anything, though.
Fair enough.
But yeah, after Jiggly, after Daredevil, if someone said to you in 10 years' time, Ben Affleck's going to win an Oscar for Best Film, and he's going to be nominated for pretty much everything he directs from now on, you tell him to fuck off. Stop being an idiot.
Just fuck off.
Go on, go and hang out with the ghost of John Lennon. You'll probably have something in common with your outlandish statements.
Stop digging. If I'm haunted by John Lennon tonight, this is your fault.
But yeah, but now he's resurged, and The Town's one of my favourite films of recent years. I thought that was astonishingly good.
I think the common trend in all this is that we're identifying is that Batman films certainly have the capacity for some amazing performances.
Yeah.
More so than the characters themselves. Like, we remember like, it sounds stupid, but remember Jim Carrey, but like, it was an amazing Riddler. Still is.
Yeah.
Still is.
It's an amazing Riddler. It's not a dark, gritty Riddler, but that's not what those films were then. It's
Michelle Pfeiffer and Danny DeVito are still...
Michelle Pfeiffer is still Catwoman.
Yeah.
In my head. Anne Hathaway did a great job in Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah.
We discussed this before.
Yeah.
Again, a lot of backlash when she was announced as playing Catwoman, but I think she's perfect for that film. But no, yeah, Michelle Pfeiffer is still... That is Catwoman.
On that topic, and I think the Nolan films have had quite an uphill struggle bringing such over-the-top comic book characters into a really real world. And perhaps no other character has embodied this transition more than Bane, played of course by Tom Hardy. What is it about Bane that you like so much?
It's probably my favourite villain in a film ever, I think. Tom Hardy in Dark Knight Rises. I thought he was better than the Joker in terms of the threat and the menace. I I think the thing you've got to remember with that is 3/4 of his face is covered the entire film, and yet he acts the shit out of it with just his eyes. That's essentially all you can see.
Yeah.
And he still owns it every time he's on screen. Because the thing, Tom Hardy's an amazing actor, but he came into sort of public awareness by playing big beefed up blokes. You know, Bronson, it's a good performance, but it's as much a physical performance as it is anything else. Then you had Inception, where he was just sort of there as the
token British guy,
and almost like the action element of it when they needed it. And then Dark Knight Rises. But the other week I went and saw Locke.
Right.
It's a small independent film. Can't remember who put it out. It's probably still on at certain cinemas. I'd recommend to anyone to go and see it. I think it's one of the best films that I've seen this year. And it is Tom Hardy in a car driving down the M6 for an hour and a half in real time. That's all the film is. You never leave the car. He gets a phone. Basically, he's a construction manager who's driving to London, and he's taking phone calls from his family, people he works with, and his whole life's falling down around him whilst he's driving somewhere, just trying to do the right thing about something, and it's incredible. So he's a brilliant actor, and I think he brought that to Bane, because we've seen what Bane can be.
Yeah. In Batman and Robin.
Which is just a complete misunderstanding of the character, because the idea is that Bane isn't just much stronger than Batman, but he's as smart, if not smarter, than Batman, which I think they showed pretty well in Dark Knight Rises.
And then there's that voice.
Which, how long ago was the Dark Knight Rises? 2 years. We still quote to each other daily.
I tend to top up on it. I get into it every now and again, and once I've watched it, just Bane's in my system for ages. Just instantly quotable.
It is just instantly quotable at every point.
What are some of your favourite Bane moments?
Some of the best Bane moments. Crashing this plane, without doubt.
I've noticed this, and I've pointed this out to several people, that he's in the CIA agent is played by the same guy that plays Littlefinger in Game of Thrones,
and Tommy Carcetti in The Wire.
And just after filming The Dark Knight Rises, you can see this transition in Littlefinger where he's definitely got some Bane mannerisms to him.
There's a little bit of it.
Sansa. Still playing with your toys.
You're in the river run, I see.
You think friends are your ally?
You think the death of your is an ally?
Well, he's saving people from Game of Thrones.
Just suddenly thought I better step back from spoilers there.
So calling Paul McCartney a cunt is fine.
That's fine. No, that's
spoiling
not.
Game
I'm not
of
spoiling
Thrones.
anything there, am I?
Yeah, great intro.
Yeah, great intro. So just the crashing this plane.
But there is a problem with that delivery that I didn't pick up on, where he's asking him, if I take that mask off, will it hurt you?
It would be extremely painful.
Yeah, that bit, and he's like, "You're a big guy, you can take it." I thought the inclination was lost a little bit there.
Yeah, I mean, having between us probably seen the film about 20 times now, you realise it, but
the bit that I'm fine until he says, "So I suppose Big Guinea Cub was part of your plan?" It's of course! Gets me.
I love the entire first fight between Bane and Batman. I thought was perfect.
Yeah.
I think, beat for beat, that's, I think, one of the best, definitely the best fight sequence in any of the Batman films. But yeah, it's just the character there, as well as the physicality of it. It's Bane, essentially. He could have beaten and defeated Batman on the walkway as soon as he stepped up to him.
Yeah.
But he decides he's going to break Bruce Wayne. So I was wondering what would break first.
I'm on
But it's probably the two bits in that fight, the two lines which are the best, which is members of the League of Shadows.
We are initiated, aren't we, Bruce? Members of the League of Shadows. It's
that,
yeah.
And
he really plays into.
You think darkness is your ally?
He really plays into the whole theatricality and deception.
Yeah.
That is Bane to a T.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't need to do any of this stuff, but like the whole thing of keeping Gotham like strung along.
Yeah, and this is, I mean, there's some, what they've done with Bane is they've taken some elements of the character from the original comics, where the idea of Bane in there is that he's just this master tactician. I mean, it's like Nightfall that I was saying before. The story in that is Bane shows up with a little group of villains, and they basically blow open Arkham. I think it's Arkham.
You're right.
It might be Blackgate.
Meh.
I'm sure it's Arkham though.
Someone will tell us.
They blow it open and basically let all of the villains out. And then the plan being not, we'll let the villains out to release like carnage on Gotham. It was, we'll let the villains out because then Batman's got to go and fight them all, and then I'll just step in when he's had 4 days straight of fighting supervillains and get rid of him. It was a tactical thing the whole time, which is what that first fight with Batman he sort of slowly reveals was, I knew all along that you were gonna come and find us down here. I needed you to come and find us down here, so I could pop you in this little prison. But there's the comic Nightfall has got possibly the single greatest frame from a comic that I've ever seen, ever, where the page is made up of panels of Batman fighting different villains, and then the last panel is just Bane sat in an armchair with a TV in front of him, like a little old school TV in front of him, watching footage of Batman fighting these people, drinking a cup of tea.
Thank you.
Oh, it's just amazing. It's just superb. Like in the full get-up, the full like vest and the black and white mask that he wears in the comics, just with a cup of tea, sat in an armchair.
Biding his time.
It's amazing.
Biding his time. Why has Batman endured? Endure it, Master Wayne.
Endure, Master Wayne. I won't bury. Right. Stop.
I've buried enough members of Wayne family.
Michael Caine impressions. Perhaps, Mr. Wayne, this is a podcast you don't fully understand.
I see the League of Shadows return. Look at the ferocity.
I see the Gorton reborn. I see Neil Gorton.
He does see Ra's al Ghul better than anyone else in that trilogy.
Ra's al Ghul. I don't. It just.
It's Batman just impossibly cool. The notion of it.
Yeah, I think what it is I think society will always want an anti-hero. It's like you look at anything in entertainment now, and it's the ones that stick are the anti-heroes. That's why Iron Man, Tony Stark's probably the most popular member of the Avengers for most people. It's why Batman's still going. It's why Breaking Bad was as popular as it was. It's, the series getting picked up at the moment. It's like Hellblazer, Arrow that's starting to do all right in its second series because Christ, the first one was barely watchable. But it's people love an anti-hero, and that's what Batman brings to DC. Because everyone else in the DC lineups,
goody.
They are all goody, aren't they?
Batman, on the other hand, you
There
give
he
you a
is.
slap.
Plus, he's always got an answer.
You've always got an answer, haven't you, Batman?
So, yeah, where most people, you'd be annoyed at them for being a little bit smart-ass, Batman gets away with it. He's cool. He's got a cape. Everyone loves a cape.
Everyone loves a cape. So, Batman goes in.
Batman goes straight in. Straight in honour. When we, as we've said a couple of times, we're going to be getting the Almanac. It's going to be transcribed, heavily edited, and then printed up into a coffee table book, which in honour of Batman, the coffee table book will be bound in black vinyl with little ears at the top.
You really like Batman.
A couple of nipples on the front.
just for
more because I like nipples than anything.
Christ. All right, that was the 3 Bs made it into the Almanac of Awesome. Thanks for listening. Please,
all three, straight in,
and the 3 bonus from the audience.
I feel like I should have argued more at the Beatles.
Yeah. I'm sure the fact that you
I feel like
besmirched Paul McCartney has been enough to draw the ire of listeners.
Who's going to argue that Paul McCartney's brilliant? Oh, I love Paul McCartney. Who's going to say that? No one I know.
It's not my problem. You'll be the one to reap.
We haven't done this before, but no, sorry. Before we do that, who were the people who were listening?
I'll tell you after. Names to protect the innocent.
I want to name and shame them.
No, that's exactly why I'm not telling you now.
I want their entire communities, everyone around them, to sort of. Not even I want them to get other people to listen. I want them to be the warning.
Jesus. I'm not sure you'll be back for another episode. I mean,
no,
that's
fair enough.
You co-host.
I'm surprised I made it 3. If I'm honest. I've told you this is why I don't do videos myself. I just get in a lot of trouble. No, what I meant to say was I am at Sam Conisby on Twitter. Neil is at Neil Gortz. With a Z, because he's down with the kids. Yeah, hit us up, give us some feedback. If anyone wants to argue in 140 characters or less why Paul McCartney isn't a cunt, I'd be happy to hear it.
Jesus. I don't even know if I'm going to beep these out.
No.
No.
We're all grown-ups here.
You wouldn't think so.
If anyone under 18 is listening,
shame on you, because you've lied. You've clicked the terms and conditions that said
you're wasting your life.
Get out there.
Go on, go and live it.
All right, thank you very much for listening.
We're going to end on that message for the kids that aren't listening.
Get out there.
Just get out there. Live life.
Don't waste it away recording some podcast.
It's not all video games and
Tom Hardy.
There's a whole world out there
waiting.
We can only get to 3 Bs this episode.
I cut it down for time, but we're crunching on the hour mark here.
Are we? What would a 4th B be? Now that we've done all the outros and everything.
Back to the Future.
Straight in. Not that Secret Cinema event though.
Red Trouser Brigade.
Full of red trousers. I was going to say we should gather a group together and see. I don't know what the capacity for the Secret Cinema events is, but see if they'd be willing to book out one of the nights just for us and our group, so we know that it wouldn't just be full of the worst hipster douchebags.
You're declaring war on London hipster douchebags.
Yeah, all of them. Every single one. If you own a pair of red chinos, I want you to stop and delete this podcast and never, ever come back. I'm
going to find you with Brompton tyre marks all down your back.
Brompton. Yeah. Brompton bikes. They can get the fuck out of the Almanac of Awesome. There you go. There's the arguing point for the end of this.
You know what really annoys me about Brompton bikes?
Is it people who bring them on the train?
Yes!
Yeah.
Fuck off!
They shouldn't be allowed.
You've got a bike. Get off my train.
Yeah, get off the phone. What? Oh, I bought a bike because I can't be asked to walk the 5 minutes from the station to my office. It's ridiculous.
Grinds my gears.
Yep.
Tangent aside.
Yeah, I don't know, we just sort of kept going there when we'd already finished.
Much like...
Let's call this the bonus features.
DVD extras.
We're still waiting for requests from production companies to edit this into a multinational and incredibly successful cartoon series.
It's a usable podcast.
Yeah, either or.
Whatever comes first.
Either or. Send us a tweet. Should we start a Twitter account for the Almanac of Awesome? And can I run it and see how long it takes before Twitter shut it down?
Oh, I suppose so.
We'll get you with the details of that next time.
I'll put it on the Sting or whatever this is.
Right. I probably won't be there next time.
Alright, thanks for listening, folks. Sorry, that was B.
How many times is that we've ended the podcast with sorry?
Sorry. We'll be back next time with C. I've not planned that out yet.
Post E3, wasn't it?
We post Electronic 3.
Unless you want to try and Skype record one whilst you're out there, we can get the American opinion on things.
No, I hate podcasts with Skype phone-ins.
Yeah.
'Cause it's always like, ha, so what did you think? Yeah. No.
Neil says that. It's just because he likes getting me in a darkened room for an hour and a half to look into my eyes whilst we talk to each other.
You had lovely eyes.
Thank you.
Little brown pebbles.
And on that note...
Bye!
Bye! Bye!